Testing 1, 2, 3.
I'm the one who's sick this time. It's usually you on this podcast.
I thought we were testing.
No, it gets you every time, doesn't it? I've done the test. We're good. Here we are. Finish your Pringles?
Yes, I finished my Pringles.
Perfect. Wouldn't want to put the listeners through the horror of that sound.
Nope.
But here we are.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Collectania of everything.
That's where I was going.
Yeah, there we go. Got you there.
I'm Hamish.
And I'm Jasha.
Sweet.
Done. How have you been?
I've been pretty good. As I told you,
Yeah.
finished Doom.
I think that calls
2016.
for a round of applause, guys.
Finally finished
a game.
Yes.
Hamish Skelton, everyone.
On Too Young to Die setting, but yeah, still
the
finished
easiest
it.
one in
I
the
still
game.
finished it. I call that a win.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
win.
Really enjoyed it though.
It's a good game, eh?
Yeah.
Doom. Looking forward to you playing through Doom Eternal.
Yeah, I'm thinking about starting it this weekend. I think
Nice.
I'll give myself a little bit of a break.
Yeah, I'll need to jump back into multiplayer on that and we'll need to do some stuff together. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Anything else you've been up to? Anything?
This past week,
Yeah.
I just got through. I'm spending
Night
all my
and day,
time.
just-
I started watching that show, a show that you recommended. Well, I told you about it before when we started watching it. Now we've continued watching.
Oh, you're watching Ted Lasso?
Yeah, that's the one.
You liking it?
I forget the name for some reason.
Yeah, it's another
It's
Apple
literally
TV.
the guy's name. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm really enjoying it.
It's, I really liked it, and I didn't think I would because it's just about like a football team. And
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest, sportiest guy, but
Yeah, I'm finding it quite easy to watch. And it's just, I don't know, it's kind of like a feel-good show
Yeah.
almost, but still funny.
I've got to
But,
say, like Apple TV Plus shows, there's not many, but they're all really good. the ones
Well,
I've
I've
seen.
only watched 2.
Yeah.
So,
Get ready.
watching through my second one.
Hmm.
But yeah, Mythic Quest was really good. I enjoyed that.
I've been
when
interesting.
watched
I
through
haven't
that.
watched this other show they've done called is it? I can't even remember. It's something Park.
I think I know the one you're talking about. It's like an animated show. Eh?
Yeah, they've got
yeah.
a show there by the makers of Bob's Burgers anyway. That's animated in the same way, but it's a musical.
Yeah.
I need to get around to watching it, but I haven't.
Me and Abby started watching it, and
Yeah.
then I realised it was a musical.
Oh, really? That put you off? That's what bringing me on to
we
it.
just started watching Mythic Quest instead. And
Yeah,
we
yeah.
haven't gone back to it yet. I can't remember what it's called.
Neither.
Is it just Central Park?
Central Park. That's
Is
it.
that what it's called?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, Central Park.
But yeah, so that's my week. How about you?
Yeah, I've been sick for most of it, but I last week while I was traveling for work,
Yeah.
I continued a little ritual I like doing when I go traveling around places, which is trying to find a small like boutique cinema that's showing a random movie and just going and watching it.
Yeah.
And I went to Hollywood on Avondale in Auckland, real cool old school theatre, and they were showing Manhunter, which is a movie from the 80s directed by Michael Mann, who's directed Collateral, Miami
Mann.
Vice.
So is this a movie about people hunting him, or?
I think one of the reasons he was offered to direct the movie was because it was called Manhunter and his name was Michael Mann.
Had he done? Wait, you just said he was directing.
Oh, he's done
direct-
heaps of stuff, like Collateral.
But what about before
Miami
that
Vice,
movie?
I think he did one called Thief.
And that's it.
Potentially, yeah. I'm not a man
So this
expert.
this was his big break.
This is Manhunter, possibly. But I think the theatre was doing like an event called the Season of Man and was like showing a Michael Mann movie every week.
No.
So I just jumped in for Manhunter and I loved it.
Any like? I didn't think I've heard of him before.
You heard of The Last of the Mohicans?
Mohicans?
Mohicans. There you go. There you go. He did that one.
The book.
The movie.
Oh yeah.
That was really good. Yeah, it surprised me. I mean, I've talked on the show before how I like Mindhunter.
Yeah.
Real in-depth like profiles on serial killers and real cool crime mystery stories. And this was great. It was the first appearance of Hannibal Lecter in a movie. So he was there, but it was just, it was really suspenseful, really stylish, and dude, the synth, the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think you played a little bit on your Instagram story.
yeah,
didn't you?
man.
Yeah.
It's just so good, and the colors, and it's just, it's It was great. Loved it.
I have to watch it sometime.
Yeah, really recommend it. Other than that, I have been slowly going insane while watching a whole ton of Shining content, getting ready for our episode today.
Yeah, what's up with that? Is there more than just 2 movies?
Nah, so there's watched The Shining,
Yeah.
and because I haven't seen it since like 2019.
Yeah.
And then I watched Doctor Sleep, the director's cut, which is like over 3 hours long, which I haven't seen since I saw it in the theaters in 2019. And then I was recommended a movie, or I saw that friend of the podcast, Alex from The Final Draft, had watched Room 237, which is kind of like a documentary with a whole lot of people talking about what they got out of The Shining, or the hidden meaning of The Shining, what they think it is really about. So it's like nearly 2 hours of like 5 Shining experts talking about what they got out of the film.
Are they talking about the film or the book?
The movie.
Okay.
Yeah, specifically the Stanley Kubrick movie. But yeah, I gave that a watch. I didn't love it. That even drove me a bit more. It was good, but it made me feel like I was going even more insane because all these crazy theories and possibilities were coming into my head, and some of them are crazy, some of them are slightly like, I don't know. I've gone deep into the Shining hole. And then I watched Making of The Shining, which is a documentary feature filmed by Stanley Kubrick's daughter on the set of The Shining. And it was just like 30 minutes behind the scenes of what the cast and crew were doing on set.
Yeah.
It's so funny because like everyone's stressing out, everyone's like butting heads. The director Stanley Kubrick and Shelley Duvall, who plays Wendy Torrance in the movie, were like, he's like being mean to her, she's like crying and getting stressed out, and then you got the guy who plays Jack Torrance, Jack Nicholson, just like cracking all these jokes and just acting real cool. And it's like, it's just, oh man, it's good. But that's been me watching all of this
In preparation for
tonight's episode.
Yeah. What did I do? I watched The Shining once this year for the first time.
And you finished Doom.
Yeah. No, and I watched Doctor Sleep after The Shining. But it was both of them this year, but were months ago now.
Yeah.
I've
got enough crazy.
I think I remember enough to be able to talk about it. But I don't remember enough to come up with theories or anything.
I don't know if I
remember being disappointed and feeling like The Shining didn't make sense to me. But that might just be because I've told you that, haven't I?
I didn't know that you were disappointed with it.
Oh, just with the ending. I felt like the plot twist was a bit like, what?
Yeah.
But well, just with the ending with the
let's just spoilers, everyone. If you haven't watched The Shining, please watch it. It's awesome. And we're going to spoil it a ton.
Spoiler alerts, like when it's a movie this old.
Yeah,
I thought it was more like it's only if it's like the movie's come out this year and people probably haven't had a chance yet.
I just want everyone to experience it.
I feel like most people have had an opportunity to watch The Shining.
You don't know though. Like nowadays with the younger generation, these type of movies are just lost in time to some of them.
Yeah, I suppose.
Just sad. But yeah, watch The Shining, watch Doctor Sleep, and then what were you saying?
I was just saying with the end, where they show the picture.
Yeah.
With him in it, I didn't get it. Like, I think I get it more now. Is it like that he's meant to be a permanent resident there now? But for me, I think the first time watching, only time watching it, but watching through it, getting to the end, and I was just like, I think it makes more sense now after watching Doctor Sleep. But
yeah, totally.
Watching it then, I was just like, so he's always been there? And I was just like, that doesn't make any sense because he hasn't been. It's like, that was kind of confusing.
That's what I always thought as well, that like potentially it's a timey-wimey situation.
Yeah.
It's always been. But I guess rewatching it again, it's kind of made a bit more sense, especially watching it with Doctor Sleep straight afterwards. I guess what I think they say in Doctor Sleep is that he became a permanent resident of the hotel.
Yeah.
I guess the hotel just changed to reflect that.
Yeah.
What did you think of The Shining in general? Did you?
Well, I like horror movies of that kind of age often.
Because it's 1980. It's like around the time Alien came out.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like the experience of watching horror movies from around that time period were it's a lot more enjoyable than current ones, I think. Yeah. They often, I don't know, a lot of them feel to me a little bit slower and a bit more like they take their time, and especially with The Shining, kind of takes its time before it starts getting like really crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just enjoy that. I enjoy the slower pace, especially when it comes to horror movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
I'm with you there. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of my favorite horrors are probably all from like the late 70s, 80s as well.
Also, I was just realizing that we haven't done a drinks check.
Oh my goodness, what are we?
So I was like, something's off here, and I'm like,
Something's
what's
off.
drink check?
We completely forgot.
I don't know what brand of hot chocolates you get, but I've got that.
You're
I've
mixing it up from tea.
Yeah.
I'm feeling thematic for The Shining, and I chose to drink a whiskey, single malt. I've completely forgot what type it is. I'll need to chuck it in our Discord, get a whiskey chat going. But yeah, my wife got it for me for my birthday earlier this year. Thought tonight was the night to open it. Here we go.
Yeah. What was the whiskey that he drank in the movie though? Was it? I'm not.
It's Jack Daniels.
It was Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking that, but I didn't want to say it because I didn't want to sound like
No,
I didn't
yeah,
know
right.
anything about whiskeys because I don't.
But there's drink check.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we've exhausted my knowledge
Really?
of The Shining. Well, pretty much. Like, if I talk anymore, I'm just filling up the podcast with pretty much what everyone would know about The Shining. I'm really interested though in hearing about this, like all the theories that you've uncovered.
I don't even know. I feel crazy, dude. I really like The Shining though. Like, I think my dad introduced me to it when I was a bit younger. I didn't really know anything about it, and it creeped me out completely.
How much younger though?
Not super young.
Okay.
I would have been like 15, 16.
Oh yeah. I was thinking like 12 or something. I'm like,
years
I
old.
feel like that's yeah. I feel like that's.
Nah, yeah. I was a bit younger. I watched it, I think, by myself, and I just loved it. I think same thing with you. I really like slow paced movies, especially ones when you get to know the characters
Yeah.
and they're in like a very unique locale.
Yeah.
Like a massive abandoned hotel in
Yeah.
the middle of winter, just covered in with snow.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Well, one note though, I think, is I feel like, I don't know, the things I've heard about The Shining before I watched it was often people talking about like how creepy it was when they first watched it.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the time it was like, they probably were like around the same age as you when you watched it, or
Yeah.
maybe younger. But then when I watched it, I was watching it on my phone. I was out at it was mine and Abby's anniversary, I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering this
Yeah.
correctly. I was out at like a batch. There wasn't any Wi-Fi, and it was one of the few shows that we decided to download to watch.
Yeah.
So we're watching it on my phone. So maybe that had something to play in it. I don't know. But I felt like, although it had a creepy atmosphere, and I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the slow pace and the general experience of the film,
Yeah.
I felt that it was like it didn't creep me out enough. Like I felt like, I don't know. I came away feeling like, oh yeah, that was a good horror movie, but I don't know. Is it just my? It's probably my to do with age and the fact I was watching on like such a tiny little screen. Maybe that sort of prevents the like being immersed a bit more. I don't know.
Maybe. Like, I'm a big believer in like some movies are meant to be seen on the big screen.
Yeah.
Like, it definitely makes... I know that both of us saw Aliens in theatres last year together.
Yeah.
And I saw the Indiana Jones movies all in theatres start of this year, and that was great as well. I just really love the cinematic experience of seeing these movies, especially one as atmospheric as this.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't seen it in theatres. I'd love to one day, but I watched it on my 4K TV. It still freaked me out. Like, and not specifically like Jack Nicholson's performance as Jack Torrance is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
insanely good. Just the right amount of deranged and just some like funny motions and funny things he does as well.
Yeah.
But I think the moments that got me the most were just the random off-putting things, like the flashes of when you see the twins standing, and then flashes to them covered in blood, dead on the ground. When Wendy finds the room full of skeletons and the whole atmosphere and room changes.
Yeah.
There's just certain things that just are still like, especially I think the music, the score really flows with it well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still love. I agree though. It doesn't like completely like. I'm not scared.
Well, this is interesting because to me, when I watch this through a movie and there's like that kind of stuff going on, I don't like. Yeah, I enjoy the fact that it is the atmosphere that it's setting off. But I feel like, to me, that feels more like the build up to something. It's not really ever the creepiness. It's the build up
so
to whatever.
Something like a big finale.
Or more, I'm expecting something absolutely like horrifying.
Yeah. Because The Shining's funny because it's quite anticlimactic. Like, it ends with Jack following Danny through the maze.
Yeah.
And him never even finding him in the maze, and him slowly just sitting down and freezing to death.
But I feel like if you don't find those initial, for The Shining, I think this is probably why I was another thing I was a little bit disappointed with the fact that I didn't get that creeped out, was I think that if you don't find the initial imagery going through it like creepy and scary itself, then I feel like, unless of course I don't know, I feel like the overall movie isn't going to be that terrifying for you then.
Yeah,
I don't know,
possibly.
Just because it just ends with him going crazy, running around the house with an axe. Yeah. But it's interesting because I was just thinking about the things that I particularly find hard to watch in horror movies and scary and quite like disturbing. For me, I find things that are ultra like, because this is a little bit spiritual, it's a little bit like, there's like ghosts and stuff going on. Yeah. I find that if it's like The Conjuring, I wouldn't be able to, like, I find. I've watched one of the Conjuring movies, and I watched the Annabelle Creation movie. I can't do it.
And you mentioned as well the same with like bodily injuries as well.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. That's the thing in Annabelle Creations. It had like the whole like demonic stuff, which was just like freaking me out.
Worst movie for you to see.
And then it had like a bunch. I think it at least had one scene where someone like quite clearly showed someone's body or like hand. I think getting like broken up into all different directions, and it's just like, ugh.
So you were waiting for like a moment like that in this, were you? Or
kind of. That's what I'm like expecting.
Yeah.
As I'm expecting something like really like, I don't know, like the big reveal of like, I don't know. But I think although with this movie, I feel like its subtlety throughout it, with like how it doesn't really explain what it is or what's going on. I feel like that's probably the real beauty with this movie, though. Yeah. Because I feel, though for me, that's what I'm not expecting that.
I mean, it doesn't feel like a straightforward horror, right?
Yeah. I don't know, it feels, in some ways it almost feels like some kind of like psychological thriller
drama.
Almost in some way. But I think the thing is that I don't think it would be anywhere near as successful or as popular if it had that kind of thing. But so I'm glad that they didn't, but at the same time, that for me, I don't know, it still made it less. It just made it less scary, I think. Yeah. Which I don't know. I don't know if I would actually rate it down for that though. Like rate it lower. I don't know. It's a tricky thing because there's so many things about the movie that is so good, and like I was planning on rewatching it, but my wife didn't want to watch it. I didn't want to watch it again. So we ended up watching another random horror movie. Fun fact.
What was that one?
It was like one of the first ones that showed up on Netflix. We often, what we do is we click on one and we'll look through, and we'll just be like, okay, we'll look through the parental guide to make sure it's not like absolutely messed up, and because
not watching Human Centipede or anything.
Yeah, something like that, or like Saw or something. Yeah. So we're like, oh, we'll go, because otherwise my wife is just going to have nightmares for days, and I'll never hear the end of it. So, something to do with like scary stories to tell at night.
To tell in the dark.
In the dark, yeah. That's
I've been meaning to watch that.
Yeah,
I think it's described as like more. I think it's more for like kids, made for kids and teenagers.
That's what. Yeah, it kind of felt like that. Yeah.
So everything's a bit toned down, but it's supposed to be like really good.
Yeah,
like a good.
Yeah, that was the
into horror movie. If you're young and go and see this,
I think the thing that felt a bit B-grade about it was the fact that it was toned down. It made it feel a little less like, but it was rated fairly well, and the overall viewing of it was like, it's not awful, which sadly is kind of what I would rate a good horror movie modern day is like, oh, it's not awful, therefore it's good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like horror movies these days they just
There's
don't know
yet
how
to
to
be
make
another
them.
like really good one.
Yeah,
Maybe Doctor Sleep.
it's better than most.
Yeah,
I'll put it that way.
If we go back to The Shining for a second, I totally get what you're saying, and it's interesting as well because watching through like the making of stuff that I did, it sounded like Stanley Kubrick, crazy critically acclaimed director,
Yeah,
done some real awesome stuff. It seems like he completely conquered sci-fi movies when he made 2001: A Space Odyssey,
yeah.
which I don't know if you've seen.
I haven't yet.
Really good. Quite similar feeling as The Shining, kind of like slower but real
Yeah.
atmospheric. Some real good scenes. So I think at the time in the 70s, 80s, people felt like he conquered sci-fi. I think he made Spartacus before then. It felt like he conquered like action movies, and then I think he was just looking for the next genre to try and cement himself in.
Yeah,
Try and make something real great. And he chose horror, which was The Shining. And at the time, I think if you go back to 1980. It would have been still pretty scary. On screen, seeing a guy going around trying to kill his family, getting possessed by a house, like it would have been pretty crazy. And I totally get like today that's not the scariest part about the movie, which is kind of sad. But
yeah,
it's for the time. It sounds like it crazily affected heaps of people. And again, with the like Room 237 documentary I watched, it really impacted some people and made them think and made them.
Well, I think the thing is that where was I going? I completely lost my train of thought there. Maybe you carry it on. I'm sorry. I had an idea, had a thought to put out, and then I was just like, brain was just like, nah.
Maybe Tony will speak to you about it soon, and we'll get back to it.
I'll have a quiet chat over here with Tony.
with Tony. I really like The Shining. Going back to it, I think it's one of my favorite movies
Yeah,
ever. Like, I just really love it has some real cool ideas, some real cool dialogue sequences, really, really great acting. I feel bad for Shelley Duvall, who played Wendy, especially seeing the behind the scenes when they did heaps of takes. At one point in this documentary, she's like pulling out her hair's falling out.
Yeah.
And the director's just like, nobody sympathized with Shelley. Don't even talk to her. She needs to act. She can't put us behind schedule, and just like ignores her.
yeah,
When it looks like she was having a terrible time. And she's even said herself that she probably needed him to say that and needed that treatment to get the performance out of her. It's probably why The Shining's as good as it is.
yeah.
And apparently they were good friends afterwards, and she has a lot of respect for him. But it was kind of like,
Yeah,
it's kind of sad here that she didn't have the
heard
best
that.
time.
I heard. I don't know how true it is, but I heard that that they kind of put her under a lot of stress deliberately.
Yeah, it seems like that, to get the performance.
But like from the sounds of it, when I was told about it, it felt like it was more like almost like a bit more psychological than that. It wasn't just like to make her stressed out, but it was like from the sounds of it, it was like more to make her like freaked out of like what was like. Apparently, I heard that the scene with what's his name chopping through the door,
Jack.
like she didn't know that was going to happen.
No, she did, totally.
She did?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just a
I
just a mad like crazy thing that people are
I
throwing
think
out
it's
there.
been blown out of proportion.
Yeah,
because I think
yeah.
like there's been interviews going around with her. I think she did appear on like Dr. Phil or something.
Yeah.
Because she retired from acting.
Yeah.
And she
After that movie?
no, not after Shine. She did stuff after that. She did Popeye. Did
yeah.
a few other things.
That was a movie?
Yeah, man. Her and Robert Williams, I think.
Okay.
But she did other things, and then she just retired. And I think Dr. Phil like went and saw her years and years down the track, and she got when she was old, and she was a bit crazy. And there was that video was doing the rounds, and people were saying, "Look what The Shining's done to her. Look what's happened to her because of this and that treatment." And I think it has been blown out of proportion a little bit. Like I don't know if that's directly from a few places. It sounds like she just had the absolute worst time on set.
Yeah.
When it was actually refreshing to hear from her in the making of, and it sounds like she loved her time there and loved her time with everyone, but she was put in these stressful positions that she now is glad that she did. But
Yeah.
it's funny as well. Throughout all that, you've just got, as I said, Jack Nicholson just making jokes like when he's changing his mic out of his pants, pretending he's going to pull something else out, and it's just like it's so weird just to see him making all these jokes while craziness is happening around him. But yeah,
Mm.
I love The Shining. Let me know. Let us know what you guys
I
think of
think I
it.
remember what I was going to say now.
Yeah, what are you gonna say?
I was talking before about how it sort of is very subtle and doesn't like have a big huge like reveal at the end. Well, it does a bit, but it's more subtle. Like the whole way through, you're like all the imagery and everything like that. It's all quite, it's and I think for me, for me personally, I prefer there to be a bit more of a reveal. That's what I was basically getting to before.
Yeah.
Although I feel like that would possibly ruin The Shining specifically. I feel like The Shining's probably good as is,
Yeah.
but other horror movies, I prefer them to end.
Your
I don't know. I'm a
particular,
bit weird
taste
with
in
my.
these things. You prefer to have a.
I like things to be like, if this is the way that this movie has to end, for it to be good, even if it's not how I prefer that kind of movie to end. Like I'm okay with that. That's how it had to end.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like that with The Shining. I don't know why, but I was just thinking that most of the modern horror movies that I see though have seemed to go the opposite, where their reveal at the end is like so blown way out. And it's something so crazy that you weren't expecting, which sounds good, but then it's just like, I don't know, because I've watched some horror movies that have had like a more slow build up.
Yeah.
And then the big reveal at the end, and it's just like, what?
Yeah.
Like that. No, that's way too crazy. And it's like, I feel like, I don't know. I kind of feel like there's a balance that's needed especially for horror movies. But I'm no expert on this.
No, I completely agree with
but
you.
I don't know. I feel like that there needs to be a reveal, but you can't go too crazy, which a lot of modern horror movies I feel like do it.
Yeah, I mean everything goes for a twist nowadays, right? And it's kind of like hardly any of them actually landed well enough to.
Also, like I was just saying, like I feel like a very typical one is like occultist demon, like Satan worshippers suddenly, and they're trying to bring back Satan. Or bring back some kind of. I'm talking about mainly about like the what do you call it?
Hereditary did it.
Hereditary.
I think The Witch did it too. If you've seen that.
No, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
But also there was another one that I watched. It was like a Netflix original. Came out last year.
Eli?
Yeah, it's about the little boy. Yeah. Really interesting the whole way through. You're like, what the heck's wrong with this kid?
And I think that that's enough of a twist at the end, just to be
just
like,
right at the end.
demon child.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a cult. They were like some kind of like part of the church in some way. I don't know, Catholic church, I think, or something. I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And it was just you're just one of the children of Satan.
Yeah.
Like,
it's enough of a crazy end for everyone.
Yeah, it was just like. What?
And I gotta say, like, I know that you don't really like Hereditary. I do like it. I think, but the parts I like about it isn't that. Like,
yeah,
I prefer
it was so disturbing the whole way through.
Yeah.
It was super disturbing, and I liked that.
Yeah. And
My
again,
wife didn't like that.
yeah.
I really
Let's not
liked
rewatch
it.
that for the podcast,
But at the end, just suddenly like, let's just throw in like naked old Satan worshippers, and the main character is gonna get like possessed, and that's how it's gonna end.
Yeah, love
no happy ending, or not even like a okay, at least they survived kind of ending, which a lot of horror movies I feel like have, because you don't necessarily want a happy ending for a horror movie. Like take The Shining for instance, they survived, but
this might be why I like The Shining so much as well, because as we said, that's my least favorite part of like a movie like Hereditary, and I love the build up. Yeah, it feels like The Shining is pretty much all build up.
Yeah,
and doesn't like do like a real crazy ending like that. Yeah, it's just more of a subtle one.
Yeah,
the more and more I think about it, the more and more I see it more as like a psychological thriller or drama. Yeah, I mean it's about like a family going and spending time together and slowly going insane. So it's
but then there's the spiritual side of it.
Yeah,
so he's going insane because there was like those
because the house is possessing him and feeding off his darkness, and it was nice.
Happy Christmas holiday story.
Yeah. It's
I
won't go into I do recommend Room 237, the documentary I watched about The Shining. I liked it. some of the people talking I didn't like, but there's some real interesting scenes. Like they brought up the parts in the movie where sometimes a chair's there, it cuts away and cuts back, and a chair in the background's gone.
Yeah.
Sometimes a sticker is somewhere, and it cuts away, cuts back, and the sticker's completely gone. Like objects just constantly change and disappear. And there was a lady as well talking about how she's mapped out the whole hotel and how it does not make sense where the rooms are, and it just physically doesn't make sense. Like I think there's a part at the start that you see there's a hallway that goes on and connects to a different hallway, and you see them walking into a room that should be in the middle of the hotel. But when they get in there, there's a window that you can clearly see it's looking out into the outside. And I like parts like that. Like it does make it feel more like you get the sense of like being lost, and
it just feels more
weirdness.
crazy.
Yeah. So that was really cool to see. There was this theory in it that because Stanley Kubrick, I don't know if you've heard this before, because Stanley Kubrick directed 2001: A Space Odyssey, groundbreaking science fiction. I think the first depiction of like space like that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that believe that he, after making that, was asked to help fake the moon landing in the 70s. I think it's the 70s.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that believe that the moon landing video, at least people believe that we've been to the moon since, but the video that everyone was shown that was broadcast all over the world wasn't actually us on the moon. It was just a video directed, something created by Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
To, I guess, make the rest of the world think that America's won the space race, that we've made it.
Yeah.
And there's like, so many people have so many random evidence for it, like the shadows aren't right, the light, you can see stage lights off in the sky, it looks like it's got a background like painted or created screen behind the foreground where they're walking on.
Yeah.
And there's, I've kind of said like throughout my life that, the moon landing's fake just as a joke, and I'm not sure if I don't really believe it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that believe Stanley Kubrick was behind it. And so there's a lady who, looking at scenes of The Shining, there was a guy looking at scenes of The Shining, and he was saying like, you take the, what do you call it? The key tag that says room 237.
Yeah.
And you look at the words room, it says room NO, as in room number 237. The only capitals in room no is ROM. Oh, sorry, I can't even spell room. ROOM.
Yeah.
And then the N in no, the O is not capitalized.
Yeah.
So if you take ROOM and N, one of the words that you can mix match all those letters into is moon. So you can do like moon room. And it's like, he's saying Danny, the little kid in the movie, is walking into the moon room.
Yeah.
While he's got an Apollo 11 jumper on.
Oh, yeah.
And Stanley Kubrick's trying to tell us all that, the rocket's going into the moon room. He's saying that he faked the whole moon landing in the moon room. This is supposed to be the soundstage that he filmed the fake moon video on.
Now.
It all makes sense, right?
Yeah. How old is is A Space Odyssey, though?
I think it was 70s.
Okay.
Maybe even 60s.
I thought that's in colour, though. Isn't the moon landing in black and white?
I think the moon landing's in colour.
I thought it was in black and white.
Oh, probably is in black and white. I don't know. Before our time.
I mustn't have looked at it enough.
We need to go back. Let's do an episode on the moon landing conspiracy. No.
I've just always assumed it's fake.
Yeah.
Look at it.
But there's theories like that, and there's theories like, there's some that sound like they could be right, like there's a whole lot of Native American symbolism in the hotel.
Yeah.
And I think they say at one point that the hotel was built on the graves or dead bodies where a big war happened between Native American and one of the civil wars or something. And so people are thinking it's like subliminally trying to tell us about this huge tragedy that was the massacre of Native Americans.
Yeah.
Some people think it's subliminally trying to tell us about the war, I think World War II, that happened around then.
Yeah.
And just different things are supposed to mean different things. And some of the things sound crazy, but some of the things I guess it's definitely made me think about the movie a lot more.
Yeah.
And it's definitely made me like kind of see what a good movie does to people, to make them like discuss it this in depth, come up with this method. I mean, it's exactly what we're doing now, just talking about a movie. So it's pretty cool that Shining can do that to people.
I do notice the one thing you haven't done, though, in preparation for tonight.
Yeah.
is read the book.
I
Is there much, like, is there a lot of difference or something?
well,
Do you know?
Stephen King, who wrote The Shining,
Yeah.
famously hated the movie when it came out.
I've heard of that. I've heard about that.
Because apparently it changes so much about the book. It hardly goes off the book. It takes the premise, changes it completely. The ending's completely different. And yeah, he just didn't like it. So I think they recreated The Shining and made it a mini-series in the 90s.
Really?
And he's said that he really likes that version. And it's interesting because when Mike Flanagan came to direct Doctor Sleep and create Doctor Sleep, he met with Stephen King and was like, hey, I want to make a sequel to The Shining, but I want to do it with your approval. I want you to be happy with it. And Stephen King apparently tried to make him make this a sequel to the 90s miniseries instead of the 80s movie.
Yeah.
But Mike Flanagan was just like, everyone knows the 80s movie, no one knows the 90s show, so we need to make it a sequel to this, but I'm going to try and make it a sequel to the Shining movie and a sequel to the Shining book.
Yeah.
And it works as both. Like, rewatching it, it feels like a love letter to the Shining, but it also definitely feels like its own thing, Doctor Sleep, which I really liked about it. And Stephen King watched it, loved it, and then said he thinks that the 80s Shining, it's a bit better in his eyes now that the sequel's kind of saved it for him, apparently.
Really?
But I need to read the book. I did think about watching the miniseries, but I was like, nah, that's too much. I'll do it someday.
I don't know, because I felt like Doctor Sleep was like that explains why, but like it felt very different from Shining.
Yeah, it feels like a different thing, right?
And I think that's one of the reasons why I keep using the word disappointed with these things. Mm-hmm. It's sad. Okay, I'm just gonna put it out there. I do like The Shining.
Yeah.
Doctor Sleep, however, I don't know.
You didn't like it, did you?
Basically, yeah. I don't know. It's it didn't feel the same.
Yeah.
It didn't have the same kind of creepy, subtlety throughout it.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, I don't know. It felt a lot more action filled. You know, it was a lot more like fast paced. There was a lot more general violence, not just hinted towards like malicious things that have happened, or you know, like imagery and stuff. There was a bit of that.
Yeah.
But it was like, I don't know, I'm just remembering like the end where they oh, spoilers by the way.
Yeah. Stop now, watch Doctor Sleep if you haven't already.
Like the end where they're just literally just shooting all the bad guys. Just like, yeah, let's just kill them all by shooting them all.
Yeah. I think it's like halfway through.
Yeah, that's right. No, I think it was about 3/4.
Yeah, I think it's been completely changed for me that I love watch the 3-hour cut, because the story doesn't really start until an hour and a half in.
Yeah.
Like, it's all just build up between what Danny's been up to and struggling with his alcoholism and meeting this girl and meeting the I should remember what they're called, the Knot or the something Knot, the cult group that are going after these kids with The Shining.
Yeah. I mean, that's a creepy. I think the premise is quite disturbing. And there was that one scene where the kid got killed, which was like particularly disturbing.
It's creepy.
Yeah, I didn't.
I liked it.
I felt like it was too drawn out. You liked that scene?
Yeah.
What the heck?
Like,
I felt like it was way too, we got the idea, and I felt like it was just too drawn out, and I was just like, ugh.
We've talked about it since.
Yeah.
Especially, I think, on our horror. If you guys haven't listened to our horror episode, we talk about our favorite horror movies. I think we called it "I'm thinking of segwaying things." But if you haven't listened to that, give it a listen. But we've talked about it before, and you said you really didn't like it, and I guess going back to watch it, I was like, oh man, this is going to be terrible. Like,
yeah.
But you don't see anything. Like, you only see his face reaction to it.
Yeah.
You see some blood. I expected to like see a massive massacre, but you don't really see it. It's quite toned down, and I think it very much makes this cult seem like bad. Like, it makes them seem even more scarier that they'll just go pin down a kid and then do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had some creepy scenes like that. I think at the start as well, when I think her name's Rose the Hat, is like sitting down and giving flowers to one of the other girls. And then you slowly see one by one the rest of the cult appearing in the woods behind them. Yeah. There's just some real cool... I think it does make the group really scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I felt like... I don't know. For me, that's... I can't hold that against the movie, because that's more of a personal... I just got a little too disturbed.
Yeah,
it wasn't like it wasn't like a like why you watch a horror movie kind of way. For me, it was more in like a this is. I don't know. Like you replace the kid with like a middle-aged man, and I wouldn't care. I'd be like, "Yep, this is good. This is."
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah,
Good acting from the kid. I think he's a very well-known actor, and he just chose to cameo in this.
Really?
Yeah, Jacob Tremblay.
Have you ever heard of kids cameo?
Yeah, I know, right? It's having the power to cameo in the sequel to The Shining. It's pretty.
Also, isn't he too young to watch The Shining?
Probably.
I don't know. But otherwise, I felt like I felt like it was lacking in its. I don't know. I just felt like it didn't keep up the same kind of subtlety for The Shining.
It does feel like a different movie.
Yeah, it feels like a different movie, and almost like it could almost be a different, non-connected to The Shining book. Which is kind of why I didn't like it.
I think that's what the book's like as well, though. Like, I think Stephen King wrote it because for years and years people were just saying, "Hey, what happened to Danny from The Shining?"
Yeah,
and he just decided to write something that's completely different. And again, in The Shining book, I think like the Overlook burns down, everything's ended too. So the book's probably even more disconnected than the movie is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was an interesting. It's a really interesting movie to watch because it seems like it is definitely its own thing. Then you have the whole like last third of the movie when they return to the Overlook, which feels like complete homage to the first one. Yeah. And in the same vein. But you've had these like 2 hours beforehand that's just build up to this random cult movie.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to give it another watch sometime.
I recommend the director's cut. I think it was a lot more.
Like 3 hours.
I know. There's a lot more conversations. A lot more callbacks early on to the Shining. There's a lot more flashback scenes in Doctor Sleep when Danny is still young, but he's talking to Dick Halloran, the cook from the first movie that gets killed.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more scenes of him talking to Dick, and Dick just like telling him more about what the Shining actually is. And it's really cool. Like, I think there's some scenes where he says everyone on Earth has a shining in them or has a shine. It might be real small, it might be big. But then everyone has a darkness. And what the Overlook Hotel does is it feeds on your shine and feeds your darkness.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, looking back at like The Shining through that lens and seeing Jack Torrance struggling with his family, getting stressed out, struggling with alcohol and abuse, and the Overlook Hotel kind of feeding him more of this darkness, giving him visions to do with drinks, making him feel like his family hates him even more. Yeah. And I think it makes me actually appreciate The Shining more. Like, it grows. It felt, this director's cut, or at least me watching through it this time, felt more like a really great companion piece that actually makes The Shining better, even though I think it's already great. But yeah, I really like Dr. Sleep. I love Ewan McGregor's Danny Torrance.
Yeah.
He was real great. He plays this guy struggling with alcoholism himself, and kind of, I think he's like got no money, got no place to live at the start of this movie, and it's real cool theme throughout of hope and becoming better than who you thought you were, becoming better, like him becoming better than his father was. And it's just real cool scene in it when he's like at Alcoholics Anonymous, and he's like done 8 years without drinking at one point, and he does this real heartwarming speech about how he wishes his dad could be here, or he's taking this 8 years for himself and his dad, Jack. Yeah. It's just, I think it does. It's a real cool companion piece. I love both of them, but I can see why people don't. It does feel very different, but yeah, I loved it. I loved it. And when you get to the end as well, when they go back into the Overlook Hotel and a whole lot of the same shots and music cues and scenes are used, when Danny gets possessed by the hotel himself at the end and starts swinging the axe, there's a real specific like camera movement they did on the axe when they're like kept the camera on the axe instead of the person in The Shining. And they like recreate that in Doctor Sleep. There's just really, really cool similarities and really cool callbacks, which just made me happy. I really like it.
Man swinging an axe.
Yeah, it makes me happy. I was just grinning the whole time.
Yeah. Well, I think I didn't watch the director's cut.
Yeah, yeah.
I might have to do that.
I remember liking the theatrical cut, but I do remember still that feeling that it was different. It wasn't what I expected.
I think the thing is that I have this thing against in horror movies there being, I don't know, a little bit hypocritical on this because I like aliens, but like when they suddenly introduce guns and stuff, they're suddenly just like, oh, let's bring in guns and a way to kill the enemy.
Yeah.
That way, like physically.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, aliens are slightly different. Their guns didn't do a heap of like help, I think, with it, but like. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like because the whole way through The Shining, there's that feeling of hopelessness all the way through.
Yeah.
You know, like I guess it mainly follows the kid, doesn't it? Remembering back, but
it's a lot of it's from his perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the name of his finger again?
Danny, and he talks to Tony.
Tony.
There's a real cool callback in Doctor Sleep as well when he says that Danny in Doctor Sleep says that he could always feel the shining in him, but he thought it was Tony. So it's just Tony was that goodness, the power, the shining inside of him that he thought was
but
someone else.
Who was Tony? Like, did they explain that? I can't even remember.
Not in The Shining. You just see young Danny like moving his finger and talking like REDRUM, Tony.
But no, like who did they explain it in Doctor Sleep? Who Tony was?
Yeah, it's just what he called it. It was like his. You know, kids have imaginary friends.
Yeah.
It kind of like his thought of an imaginary friend morphed with what he understood of what The Shining was, and it kind of created this.
I fully thought it was just like some ghost that, like, even after watching Doctor Sleep, I still thought it was like some ghost that he was talking to because he could talk to them, right, in Doctor Sleep, if I'm remembering correctly.
He could talk to
ghosts, wasn't it?
Well, he
could, like, because he figured out like.
One of the whole themes of Doctor Sleep is the ghosts and the spectres from The Shining appearing to him through growing up, and he was able to lock them inside these like chests in his mind.
But not all of them he had to though, because like for instance he saw the ghost of that lady who died with her child in his bedroom.
I think Dick Halloran appeared to him and said, you can only shut up ghosts from The Shining there. All the other ones you'll have to live with, or something. I think, again, that might not be in the theatrical cut, but it was all very well explained.
Okay, so maybe I'm just, it might just be stuff that I'm not getting because of that.
But I get where you're going with the guns. It did kind of feel
off-putting. But I think my main thing is just that when they bring in a way of, like, a very clear-cut way of defending yourself, I don't know, it just takes away a lot of that, the creepy and scariness of it. It's just like, guns.
I think, how else would you do it though in like modern day? Like I think it's based in 2019 when it came out.
Yeah.
Like it would have been, of course, you'd probably have guns.
Yeah, but they didn't. I felt like they didn't have to do it in a way of like, because my memory of it was that they just basically went out to like the forest where like tracked them down and then just whipped out some guns and shot them.
Yeah, I think his friend's backstory was that he used to be a hunter.
Yeah.
And he was really off-put by it once when he killed or he shot a deer and then it ran off and then he found it a couple of days later and it was rotting and it was shot in. And it was shot in. It had been shot and it was rotting.
Yeah.
And that really just put him off hunting that image. And then I think when they dig up the remains of that kid, it like flashes back and brings it back to his mind and he's struggling with it again. It brings him back to his hunting days. And he mentions it. And Danny's like, oh, Hunter, you've got guns. And they go and get his guns.
And then just shoot some people.
And then they're like, oh, we'll set up a trap.
Yeah.
We'll take them all out. I didn't mind it. It was cool as well because you got to see, I think each of the members of that cult had their own specific power. There was the girl who could like suggest things and there was, I can't remember the other ones really, but they all had powers they used and it was cool seeing her. Really sad when that guy dies. I think it finally looks like they're winning and then she suggests that he shoots himself.
Yeah.
And it's just real shocking, just it happens instantly and you're like, what?
That was like, I don't know, that was one of those scenes that really makes you like, I don't know, for me I was like feeling kind of like, oh no.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because she was dying, wasn't she?
Yeah, she just died. She's dying and it's one of the last things she says to him and then she just like laughs as she dies.
Yeah.
There's some crazy scenes like that. I love them.
Yeah.
I really like them. I really appreciate Doctor Sleep. As I said, as its own thing, and I think it's a really great sequel.
I don't want to like hate on the movie or anything. I wouldn't say I hate the movie at all.
Yeah, no.
I feel like I don't know. Like, as far as modern horror movies go, the ones that I've seen anyway,
Yeah.
it was pretty good. But I just feel like, to me, it didn't stand up to The Shining, the original. But then also, to me, The Shining isn't like my favorite horror movie from that time either.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm judging it off. I'm like, sort of like, Shining wasn't even, The Shining was pretty good, but like it wasn't amazing compared to like some of my more like favorite
things like The Thing and
Yeah.
Alien that came out. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so it's like, and then it's not as good as The Shining, Doctor Sleep. So I'm like, is it really that good then?
Yeah.
I don't know, but maybe that's an unfair way of looking at it. I do feel like the main issue is probably the lack of subtlety and guns. It's just suddenly like,
You're anti-guns.
I don't know, like
You hate America.
what the heck? You're trying to make more enemies for me? My goodness. No, like I don't mind guns in a horror movie. Like, let's just say that.
But when you bring it into like a supernatural, like
It's just more when it's like, that's the solution. Guns.
Yeah.
You know? Like I think I've seen movies where they bring in guns into a horror movie and you're just sort of like it doesn't feel like they're particularly safe even with the gun.
yeah,
You know? It makes them feel a bit safer, and then suddenly they're like, no, that's not, and then you kind of feel a bit safer as well. Well, they've got it, but then you realize it's like, it's not actually going to help them in the long run.
yeah,
You know? And I think it takes away the desperation of it and the feeling of like hopelessness, which makes it a horror movie more horrific, I guess. Yeah.
I get you. That's very good.
Bring in America and guns. What the heck?
Oh, thanks so much for listening, guys. Would love to hear what you thought of The Shining, what you thought of Doctor Sleep, what you think of the theory that Stanley Kubrick faked the moon landing. I don't know. I might be swayed now. I might. What would you rate The Shining overall though? I think I'd give it a 5 out of 5, but that's just.
Are we going out of 5?
Yeah.
I think I like a 4.5. It's up there. It's definitely
Nice. And I think I'd give Doctor Sleep rewatching it. I'll give it 4.5 out of 5.
like a 3.5.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Probably
it's not horrible. It's pretty decent, but it was still kind of like average-ish.
I get it.
I feel like I'm going to get a lot of hate after this episode. I don't know why.
So we have some Doctor Sleep listeners. We do know that.
Yeah.
Doctor Sleep fans. I would recommend everyone check out the making of The Shining that was directed by Vivian Kubrick, Stanley Kubrick's daughter. I think it's like a 30-minute documentary. You can find it online or on special features wherever you find The Shining. But it's really, really cool look back at what the movie making process was. And you do get all these real, sometimes sad, sometimes funny moments with each of the cast and crew. So, yeah, give it a look.
We'll just add it in right at the end.
Yeah.
Why red rum? Why not just say murder? Why not just explain it? What's going to happen?
Tony was telling Danny REDRUM.
Yeah, but why was Tony telling Danny REDRUM? Why wasn't he telling him, hey, you're going to get murdered by your dad?
Like, that's a very cool scene in the movie when he looks in the mirror and sees it says murder, Hamish.
I know, and when you're watching it, you're like, yeah, big reveal. Whoa, yeah, it's murder.
It's murder.
What the heck? That's scary.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then but then when you really think about it, you're like, why doesn't Tony just say murder? Why is he saying red rum? Oh my goodness.
Who knows with Tony, to be honest.
Tony,
what
the heck?
didn't reply to my message asking whether or not you'd be keen to see the Evil Dead trilogy in cinemas next weekend.
Oh yeah, you did message me
Yeah,
about
I did.
that.
Your favourite, one of your
Next
favourite
weekend.
trilogies. Not this weekend, but next weekend. Same theatre, we saw the 3 Lord of the Rings back to back, seeing Evil Dead
In
back
Auckland.
to back. Yeah, man.
This weekend.
Not this weekend, next weekend. You didn't reply to me.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that.
Here we go.
It's not as long as Lord of the Rings, right?
I think it's like 6 to 11 or something.
No, it's not too bad.
Nah, we'll see. Maybe.
We might do an episode on it, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
Do an episode while we're going down.
There we
And then
go.
on the way back.
There we go. Done.
Look at that.
There we go.
2 episodes.
2 episodes. Pre-Evil Dead, post-Evil Dead.